Evening, Final Fantasy Randomizer fans! Welcome to the surprise third place matchup between Thunderclaude and Cheezinator. These two runners both have had fantastic tournaments up to this point, losing nail biters to crab cakes and in epic battles to Spellzap. But we are here tonight to show you the grudge match, to figure out who gets to claim the bronze medal in the spring 2020 Final Fantasy Randomizer tournament. My name is Jat, and I'm joined in the booth here by...
I'm doing quite well, thank you. I hope everybody in the audience is doing well also. Really looking forward to this seed and looking forward to the party.
Yes, so as all of our bracket matchups have been to this point, we of course have a draft, and that means that both runners got to pick two of the classes that they're going to go with. So Cheese opened up with a White Mage. Thunder picked White Mage, to which Cheese cackled in SRL and said Black Belt. And that was basically what Cheese said he wanted all along. He knew that if he opened White Mage, Thunder would White Mage. So what do you think of this party, Grant?
I hope their magic is good, because otherwise it's going to be a slightly less than pleasant early game.
Lord of the Synth asking in chat that if there's level 1 Fade, it's an automatic reroll. And yeah, unfortunately we don't have that, so if anything happens... This is the first time, but I did roll this seed. So Danny3883 is off the hook. This is not a Danny special. This is now officially a Jat special. So we'll have to see what that means as these runners get off into Canaria.
Well, there you go!
So this basically does fit my playstyle. I appreciate the nice fade exit start on your triple White Mage comps. I have gifted Thunder something a little different from his last seed. I expect Garland to be killed in about 1:30 instead of 1:30.
Well, I was going to say now Synth gets his wish to try to reroll something, but just not this seed.
Yeah, so for those of you who may not be as aware of the spell list, Fade, of course, is the only damage spell that White Mages get that can damage everything in the game. They have some very effective AoE sweepers and the harm spells that only affect undead. But Fade is going to make this early game so much easier, and with 3 Fade casters, they're just going to blow through the early part of the seed.
Absolutely. And Chad also mentioning super cheap cabins, so you're going to have a lot of good encounter strats on the world map, because of course they can use those to save in and out and manipulate the encounter steps.
So yeah, let's go into a little bit more details on that as they kind of route through this early part of Toph, just checking 3 chests here. What type of encounter manipulation are they going to be looking for with those cheap cabins, and how does that make a difference?
Well, with the cabins, you can start working on the essentially step routes, and you can begin working on hard and soft resets. Once they figure out the encounter table, then if they figure out that there's a good long run without any encounters pretty quickly off of, say, a hard reset, then they can manipulate that accordingly. And I'll shut up for a Garland fight.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. So we have a Garland fight. Already taken a nap on Cheezinator's side, though help is also, and that may have been unintentional, but both runners getting through Garland at about the same rate. Getting the Oxyale and the Bottle. So, another note, we did find the loose canal in the top left chest in Temple of Fiends. So the canal, of course, was guaranteed to be loose, and now we are going to be looking for 3 additional loose items throughout this seed, and a loose item means they can be available in any chest, not just our incentive locations.
It is worth noting that 2 of those items are potentially loose in the floater and the canoe, because they are tri-state, which means that they may be loose, and they may be included in the incentive pool with the regular NPCs and such, so we will find out when we see it.
Now, the Bottle and the Oxyale are also interesting in this particular flag set, because the Oxyale usually lets you go into Sea Shrine from Onrak, and Onrak is outside of the Inner Sea. However, in this case, we have Town Shuffle on, which means that Onrak could be right here in Provoka, so we could, have another sea town, but it could be Onrak. And the Bottle, which is normally turned in Gaia, which is locked by the airship or the floater, as it's called, we could have Gaia right around the corner. So with Town Shuffle on, both these items can be very applicable in the early game.
Absolutely. And of course, with them having already found the canal in Temple of Fiends, they have some more towns open to them than they might typically have.
So for our runners, this first town is a very friendly site. Elfland has both level 3 and 4 magic, so they will be able to look very quickly to see what they have available to them. And oh my goodness, this seed just keeps on giving.
Oh, yes. My goodness.
So what do we have there at level 3?
Well, we have a level 3 life, and I saw a Cure 4 as well, so you have pretty much just about all of your healing needs taken care of in one fell swoop.
Yeah, if we get like level 2 heal 3 in wall, we will have like the perfect white mage seed.
Absolutely. Promotion definitely not necessary in that case, which is a pretty good thing given that they have a black belt as their 4th member.
So why does it matter if we can promote or not with our black belt?
Well, that has to do with stat gains, particularly in regards to magic defense. The black belt gains, I believe, I can't remember if it's 3 or 4 magic defense a level. Whereas if you promote him, okay, 4, thank you. Whereas if you promote him to a master, master only gets 1 per level, which is no fun for anybody except the monsters trying to kill you. So you definitely want to not promote as much as possible in that case.
Yeah, so generally speaking, if you're going to promote in most seeds, you're going to want to promote after you've done your black belt grind, if you plan on using them. Versus the other classes, they get no tangible penalties from promoting. Instead, they just get access to expanded spell list. So most other classes are going to want to promote as soon as possible. But here, with such good magic for these white mages, there's not really a big incentive to promote them to a white wizard, unless, you know, they find, like, a white shirt that they want to equip. But even that is not really that essential.
Right. And on Thunderclaude's side, we discover that Elfland has morphed into Lefane.
An ironic change, considering the Lefenish are kind of like elves.
Yes. And unfortunately not terribly useful right now, although Thunderclaude does use the inn provided by Lefanish Hospitality, which is one of the flags in this seed.
Yeah, Lefane is notable because it will allow the runners to turn in the slab, which is one of the key items, the one with the question mark in our tracker right now. But first they're going to need to find that slab and also find Melmund, as the slab is kind of like the Rosetta Stone. It lets the people speak Lefanish, so you need Dr. Un to translate it first, and then you can go.
Thunderclaude has made his way up to what is supposed to be Melmund, but we'll find out what it becomes on Town Shuffle. And it's vanilla. Unfortunately, not very good white magic, it looked like, on level 5 side.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't able to catch that. That was pretty quick, but honestly, these runners could basically stop checking magic shops at this point and be pretty happy with everything that they have already.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the only 2 spells that they were really missing from that list were Heal 3 and Wall. Of course, Wall can be mitigated a bit by ribbons, and of course Heal 3 will be nice, but if they find it at, say, maybe even level 6, then that won't be too terrible, depending on where it's placed.
Yeah, Heal 3, notable for a few things. One is it's excellent against the non-elemental AoE sweepers if you want to try and keep multiple party members up. So, you know, against like a nuke, you might be Cure 4ing your most important party member, in this case the Black Belt. But against something like Swirl or Blizzard, you might want to use Heal 3. It also speeds up menuing time a lot, as you can use Heal 3 instead of having to heal pot everyone, which is always nice.
And it looks like Crescent Lake is also vanilla.
So Crescent Lake, of course, has a key item in this flag set, as we have NPC incentives on. So the sages, who in the vanilla game give us the canoe, are going to provide us with something, which is soon to be seen. Quickly touching on the key locations, for those of you familiar with the vanilla game. Oh, and we have a vanilla canoe, wow. Crescent Lake, just all vanilla all the time. But yeah, so our incentive locations, we're going to be looking at an incentive Ice Cave, we're going to be looking at incentive Ordeals, and we're going to be looking at an incentive, kind of the other mini dungeon is the Waterfall, although that is also because of the NPC flag rather than because it's chosen as an incentive location.
And Z-Man pointing out in chat another interesting draft. Oh, very interesting indeed, especially considering how Magic has shaken out so far.
I'm not going to lie, if this is what my seeds are generally going to look like, I should roll all of my own seeds. I'll be a very happy man.
I would hope you'd roll all of your own seeds, unless you're competing, but...
So Thunderclaude making the early dive to Volcano. So the strategic implications of this are that Volcano has a large number of chests available easily, and with Exit you can go in, get some levels, which is also really important, exit out with those levels and a bunch of gear. So checking the early floors here is often a good idea. Now, another note is that there's also a number of tiles, spike tiles here, which are forced encounter zones, which can be found for the black belt grind. And they've got a pretty good one here in the rock gall fight.
Yes, absolutely. The rock galls are going down fairly easy to magic, and it looks like, of course, obviously that'll get Thunderclaude some good experience. Meanwhile, I think Cheese actually got wiped out of Earth pretty early, so he had to dive back in.
Yeah, so the early Earth play is being made for this actually a similar reason to this early Volcano play. Cheezinator doesn't know that the canoe is vanilla, so he's checking Earth for a couple chests, potentially a few levels, and also to check the 3 distinct spike tiles on Earth 1.
So we have already found a pretty good spike tile on Thunderclaude's side. I don't think Cheese has quite made it to the spike tiles on his end, has he?
Not that I haven't seen it on his side. Actually, I think we have in chat Mr. Bus Driver pointing out 9 Badmen, though that may have been on Thundercloude's side as well.
Oh, well, Fade can possibly help out with that, but that's kind of nasty to get early on, especially if those bad men get good turn order and they make mincemeat out of your party.
Yeah, if you're going to take that 9 Badman tile, you need to get A, turn order, and B, they have to be fairly squishy. You're looking at 1, maybe 2 fades to take them out, otherwise it's not something you want to take on. On the other hand, that gold bracelet early is really nice.
Absolutely. And of course, with the Pro Cape that they found in Temple of Fiends, you've got a pretty decent armor set for one of your white mages, at least, early on.
Yeah, so these bad men just going to give Cheezinator a horrible time. Yeah, and they have over 300 HP, so just something you want nothing to do with.
Right.
So, some good money gear in terms of finding an Excal in the Volcano, so that's going to provide for some good early game money. But not much else going on right now in the Volcano Armory.
Yeah. Looks like Thunderclaude is going to maybe try that Rock Gall grind tile. Well, maybe not. I think he's going to explore the rest of the armory area before he makes any ultimate decisions.
Yeah, so Cheezinator exiting out with that gold bracelet. Expect him to go in one more time. Yep, there we go. And he's going to check the 2 distinct spike tiles in what we call the Hall of Giants after the giant spike tile in the vanilla game.
Looks like that first tile isn't working out to be too much. The hags, which of course he can easily take out and get some experience from it, but not nearly as lucrative as some of the others that I'm sure he's looking for.
Ooh,
oh dear.
I would just reset out of this fight, I think. I mean, Catman, you could take it once or twice, but this is not what you're looking for. While that Mudgall fight is, oh man, exactly what you're looking for. Now, one note that may cause Thunderclaude to not want to grind immediately is I haven't seen him with a house. Yeah, he does not have a house, and he also does not have a ton of key items. And the key items are very important, because the key items scale your experience. So doing a grind with a few more key items is going to make it just a little bit faster. That being said, early levels often better than late levels. It's just going to improve your speed throughout the rest of the seed, as well as your safety to prevent wipes.
Right, and that's especially helpful for a seed like this, where you don't have a whole lot in the way of any sort of armor or the ability to get defense very easily. Albeit with that one good gold bracelet find, it's still going to be fairly tough keeping white mages up unless you get them levels and a little bit of more of an ability to survive things.
Yeah, and Thunderclaude really feeling that lack of a house here, as this fire is going to take quite a while to take out. Oh, or not, it just went down for relatively low, but not exactly where he wants to be, as he doesn't have exit at this point either, so he's just going to be checking these chests as quick as possible, and then, having to walk out if he finds something, or come back in with an exit charge.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that when we were looking at some of the items early on, the houses are awfully expensive, as chat was pointing out, which makes a grind like that a bit more of a liability. Although, granted, with some of these encounters that Thunderclaude's taken, he has a bit more money, and of course, now he has a couple of items that he can vendor for some good cash, but it's still a little painful to look at the price range and see that it goes quite that high.
Yeah, for sure. Something of note that you'll see here, and that a lot of people take for granted, depending on what parties they're running, is that white mages and black belts are not good at running away. Now, black belts aren't terrible, but a party with 3 white mages and a black belt as a whole is going to be absolutely terrible at running away. So that is going to be something that you'll see these runners struggle with a little bit.
And I think the lack of that magic is kind of coming back to, it may not bite Thunderclaude in this encounter precisely, but he's really starting to feel the lack of those magic charges as he's taking a bit of a deeper dive into Volcano.
Yeah, this play is very surprising to me. He has no way to get out, and one more unrunnable, and he's going to be in a little bit of trouble, as yes, his black belt can punch his way out of it, but he is completely out of fade charges. So... Ooh, max money chest.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to see him continue to take this, and he barely makes it out. What is he trying to do with this?
Yeah, he's not trying to get out. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rag pointing out in chat that it's an information dive, which makes sense.
But he could end up clearing half of this floor and wipe out, which would be terrible. Or you can find a loose slab and be pretty happy. But getting out with that is going to also be fairly challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's really trying to get out with it, though. It looks like, yeah, he is taking this as an information dive, and once he goes back in after the reset, he's going to go after the more lucrative chests, of course.
Yeah, and I didn't see, but I'm curious if Cheezinator will pick up a house before he heads over, as he is currently also in Crescent Lake.
Well, it looks like he's mostly focusing right now, at least, on Dull and Pure, which is understandable.
The fact that he's buying heal pots also makes me think that he was thinking about a possible Volcano play as well. Although it's a good idea just in general if you have the money to buy your stacks of heal pots early.
Sure. I don't think he took a house. It didn't look like he did. Oh, hello, Life 2. I don't think Thunderclaude had checked level 6 white magic, so now we see it at Crescent Lake for Cheese.
Yeah, and I didn't... What slot was it in?
It was in slot 1.
Okay, so that's not going to be an issue at all. So yeah, we have... Once again, the magic just continues to give and give and give. Oh, but Cheezinator, making an alternative decision, going to leave, and probably going to go check Waterfall or Ordeals.
Yeah, I think he's going for... You were mentioning him buying all those heal pots, going for a Volcano dive. It may very well be that, oh, he's actually making his way north to, well, Vanilla Provoca, it looks like, via the open progression. That is another one of the flags of this randomizer.
Oh, I think he might not have... Did he not check Provoca when he was in the inner sea? He must have.
I thought he did. I know he went there. He certainly went that way. He may have... I think he went up to... I know he went up to Matoya and checked her goods, which she didn't have much. But I guess he didn't actually get that magic at Elfland. I admit I'm a little surprised as well.
Yeah, I was very curious that he was sailing north, as he didn't want... There's no way that you go to... you can go to ice from there, but that's a little bit of a strange play at the point, but I think he just didn't have the money. So I think he went there, checked what he wanted, but just didn't have enough money, so he's going there now to just buy up his additional goods. So this play makes enough sense.
Yeah. And especially given, you don't see a lot of runners really use that dock or that access, so it's a good play on his end. He didn't have to sail halfway around the world to get back there. He just ducked in, ducked out, and now off he goes.
Yeah, that dock, along with the northern Matoya, quote-unquote, dock, which is a river that you can use to access Matoya, or even Toph if you're still sailing from, say, Sky, are two kind of underrated locations where you don't need to use them all the time, but when you do, they can really save you a good chunk of sailing.
Absolutely, and of course we just saw that on Cheese's side, because that probably saved him, I would say, at least a couple of minutes just by itself.
So Cheezinator going to make this play, and well, I'm curious to see if he's going to decide to go down to the Agama floor, as we call it, which was the second place that Thunderclaude checked after checking the first major bank of chests, which we call the Armory.
Well, of course, we know now that if he does choose to do that and make his way out with the treasures, he, of course, will have the slab. But, yeah, I'll be curious to see. And it's looking like both of our runners have pretty much, at least, a similar mindset. Maybe not quite the same mindset, but pretty close in the running, because obviously they're in the same area. They're not making any sort of bold moves at the moment. They're sticking with what's close to them and what is kind of the more sensible plays, I suppose.
Yeah, and there's actually two major benefits that both runners have now gotten. Is not only have they found their first of 3 loose items in the slab, which is you can turn it in, as we found both Melmond and Lefane, but also that fantastic grind tile cannot be overstated with the black belt in your party, as that Mudgull grind is going to be, maybe not the absolute fastest in the world, but it's looking very safe with the script list that it has, and also just like pretty good experience this early.
Yeah, I expect to see both runners using that grind tile extensively, at very least now, and like you said, perhaps later on. But the rock galls are very good farming for an early party, especially with so many Fade users, to be able to just wipe them out in relatively quick succession.
So yeah, let's talk quickly on Blackbelt strategy. So Blackbelt wasn't as popular in the tournament as the fighter, and that's just because it requires a little bit of work to make happen, and that work involves usually a solo level grind. So the Blackbelt is kind of like a traditional hard carry in other like MOBAs and things like that, in that it takes a little bit of time to get going. It's pretty weak in the early game, but once it gets going, it has the highest scaling of any of the classes. But what that means is that you need to kind of carry it around on your back for a while, and then you need to find somewhere where it can get the levels it needs in order to become a powerhouse. But once it does, it just absolutely rules everything. It gets a well-earned reputation as a one-punch man. So what strategic adjustments will these runners be making because of that black belt?
Well, it looks like Cheese has already made one of those adjustments in danning one of the white mages, in order to try to get that experience flowing a little bit faster. And it is potentially these runners could actually dan more of the white mages once they get a little more comfortable, to try to speed up the XP even more.
Yeah, and then the other thing you'll see is that once the black belt gets to a high enough level, they may do something to funnel all the experience on it, which is a solo grind, which is something you'll almost never see in like a fighter siege. And what they'll do is they'll unequip all their armor, they'll unequip everything, have a bunch of heal pots, and then they'll just let their whole party members die except for their black belt. And then their black belt will just solo grind on a tile until level somewhere between 32 and 42 normally. Now, you don't do that right at the beginning because the black belt can't actually take out these parties. But once the black belt hits around 20 or so, maybe 22, 24, it will easily be able to take care of this rock gull packs. Sorry, Ragnarok. And then you'll see them get all the experiences. The way experience works in Final Fantasy is it's a big pool, and then you just divide by the number of party members who are up. So if it's 12,000 experience, you have 4 party members, it's going to be 3,000 each. But if it's 1 party member, it's all 12,000 goes to that 1 party member.
I'll be interested to see if either runner decides, once they get a little more established with levels, if they do decide to do a solo grind on these rock galls, because they're popping up to 4 in an encounter, and it looked like for the most part those encounters were rolling probably 3 of them, which obviously once a black belt gets high enough, then they can punch away, but they're not quite there just yet, and I'll be curious to see if they decide they want to solo grind that encounter a little bit later on.
Yeah, and it looks like they're not interested right at the moment, but it may be the case that they decide to go, like Thunderclaude might go down and try and defeat Carry here after getting the slab and doing the rest of the checks. I believe you just missed the 2 Agama checks on the Agama floor, as it's named.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing that they missed.
And then after that, we'll see if he goes back in, because he very well could go back in just to grind that black belt. As the black belt kind of, once it's grind, the rest of the seed is fairly easy.
Yeah, and if you take that black belt high enough, one of the things that makes the seed a little bit easier is everything else starts to run away, because I don't know of any monster except perhaps the Fiends and Chaos that really wants to see a very high level black belt staring them in the face.
Yeah. So we're just kind of... Oh, go ahead.
I was pretty much thinking the same thing. We were in a little bit of a lull in terms of necessarily the action. So Thunderclaude is going back to the Agama floor, picking up that slab once again, and Cheese is looking like he's working his way around all of the armory tiles in that floor of the volcano.
Now, Cheezinator is deciding to leave, so keep your eyes peeled, as if that slab turns into the floater, that could be absolutely huge. But if that slab just turns out being one of our 3 kind of quote-unquote bonk items, or items that are not necessary for winning the game in either the Opal Bracelet, the Power Gauntlet, or the Thor Hammer, or in this case also the Tail. If it's any of those 4 items, that's not going to be that big of an advantage for Thunderclaude at this point.
Right. And I did notice Thunderclaude does have some houses now, so if he wants to do a more extensive grind, he is now very well equipped to do it.
Okay, so Cheezinator going to use that money he got to stock up on a few more goods in the store. This is something that you'll see experienced runners doing very well. It just always seems like they have what they need, but it's because of nice heads-up thinking ahead plays like this.
And we're about to get a check of what would normally be the incentivized fire tile on Thunderclaude's side.
Yeah, often called the Red Dragon chest.
Yes.
As that is the vanilla tile in front of it.
Right. And she's picking up that life too, which is no surprise whatsoever, of course.
So the fact that Thunderclaude here is healing up means that he's prepared to go and take on Carry, and that's not a surprise. He's got the levels, he's got the fade charges. He has pretty much everything he needs. Carry should not be too much of an issue at the scaling that we're at. So we're at 230% maximum scaling, which means Carry at 600 HP is not going to go much above 1500.
Right, and this is not a clamped seed like some of, say, the Iron Gold matches that we've seen recently. So those stats could be significantly less than that if the runners get lucky.
Yeah. Now, this fight is not safe by any stretch, but it is definitely possible. If this is a wipe, though, Thunderclaude has definitely taken some time to grind. Not the biggest thing, but this is a risk that I probably would be willing to take. Fire 2, not what you're looking for, as that is exactly when you want something like Heal 3. Cure 4, not so good against those large AoEs, but at the same time, Carry could also go down any second to these fades.
I noticed he also used some Wizard Staff straps trying to confuse Carry a little bit. It didn't work the first time, but we may see it working next round, or it may not get to it.
So Carry, of course, is actually weak to the status element, and that doesn't come up as much as, say, Lich being weak to fire, or Tia being weak to poison, as using Brack or Harm or Fire 3 respectively. But that does mean that the Wizard Staff is going to be more effective against Carry, and it's really probably the only of the Fiends, except for maybe Lich 1, that you should be using it against.
Right. It's worth noting, as Carry went down, that Wizard Staff actually did take effect in the second turn. So it had at least limited utility.
Okay, so Thunderclaude choosing not to go back in and grind, and this does not surprise me, is he's feeling pretty good with that early fade magic, that he doesn't need to grind right away. Like, his fades are going to get him through most of the early Fiends, and by the time he gets up to Tia and Kraken, he's also going to have more opportunities to get some more levels, which are going to give him more fade charges, as well as start that Black Belt getting closer to 6 hits.
It looks like Thunderclaude is comfortable enough with the levels that he has. He's heading up toward Ice Cave. Of course, him having those houses, that'll allow him to get his spell charges back, and that'll make it a lot easier to be able to handle Ice Cave than you would typically see.
Yeah, and yeah, Cyan Vio asking in chat, this is the tiebreaker match for third. So we have a bronze medal match going on. This was not necessarily originally scheduled, but we absolutely love to get some more great action from 2 of our, really, really good runners who fought super hard and lost some close matches to our 2 very talented finalists.
Absolutely. Both of these runners are fantastic, and I, for one, am happy to see them exhibit on the big stage tonight because, hey, third place in a tournament pool of, I believe it was, 73, 74 participants when this whole thing started? That is quite the achievement, and definitely nothing to be undersold.
So Thunderclaude making kind of the expected play to Ice. So Ice can be skipped early if you do not have Warp or Exit, and if you don't have levels. Thundercloud has Exit, Thundercloud has levels, so going to Ice to get this incentive check out of the way makes a ton of sense. Especially since they decided that they were doing Volcano first anyways.
Now, the good news is with, like you mentioned, with Exit, of course, they can get out fairly easily. And with all those fades available, especially considering that Thunderclaude has kept all 3 of their white mages up, they can more easily take care of a lot of the rather aggressive monster packs that can inhabit the Ice Cave and can cause problems for runners.
Yeah, and I actually did want to touch a little bit on that 3 versus 4 person strategy, because the 3-person strategy is often used for a walk and grind, or when you're trying to get levels like fairly evenly across the board, and you want to kind of level up as you go. And it just makes sure that your whole party hits 23, 24, rather than having 4 party members around 20, and that tends to be extremely beneficial in like a fighting party. Cheezinator also is going to go with 2 white mages and Blackbelt kind of from the beginning, as you can see from his naming. However, in the case with there being level 1 Fade, I'm curious to see if the 4-person party is actually going to end up a little bit faster. Now, normally, putting the levels on the Black Belt is super, super important. However, just because Black Belts usually end up doing solo grinds, which means that it doesn't really matter as much if they get the experience from the 3-person or the 4-person party before the solo grind. It's just going to be a few levels. So I kind of like the 4-person party in this particular case, but I definitely don't think the 3-person party is going to cause any major problems. Just, a little strategic change because of level 1 Fade.
Right. If there had been, I think if they had chosen their parties differently, if it had not been so stacked onto the white mage, or if white mage magic had worked out differently, I think we would see different strategies on both runners' ends. But yeah, you're right. I don't think a 3 to 4 person grind is going to matter too terribly much necessarily. But I don't know. There's a reason these guys are in the 3rd place match, and I'm sitting on the sidelines. So I'll let them show me how it's done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Cheezinator is very fond of slightly smaller parties, so yeah.
I could definitely understand that. It's something that I've been to some degree experimenting with in my own seeds now that I've been summarily bounced out of tournament play. And it's interesting. It does take a little bit extra strategy and definitely making sure that you're more intentional about what you want to do.
Well, I saw an interesting post from Crabcakes, one of our finalists on the Discord, which basically she stated that in the last spring tournament she ran Fighter Rainbow basically whenever she could, which is a 4-person party, and kept most of the 4-person parties up for that whole tournament, and that was in 2019. Now in 2020, though, she's mostly been running, 3-person strats with, playing the draft around and various things like that. So it seems like the 3-person change the 3-person meta has kind of grown to be a little bit more prominent just based off this particular flag set, and just as her knowledge and comfort with Final Fantasy Randomizer has continued to grow.
Sure. Yeah, that's definitely understandable. And that's kind of how I would put it too, because, as Thunderclaude picks up his incentivized chime in Ice Cave, it's as you get more comfortable with the game, you would be more comfortable with strategies like that. I'm a pretty new runner, so it's taken me a while to warm up to a 3-person run, but I can definitely see its utility, especially for more veteran runners who are better able to handle that.
Yeah. And I think it's just another tool in your toolbox. There's no time where 4-person is strictly... There's times when 4-person is strictly wrong and 3-person is strictly wrong. But it's not always correct in either way. So, that's why you see the best runners making adjustments in all ways, and you're seeing that on display here from both Cheezinator and Thunderclaude.
All right, Cheezinator is going into their carry fight, and going, of course, with, the plenty of fades. It looks like Cheese has picked up that 4th white mage for this dive.
Okay, so yeah, making that nice strategic adjustment, understanding that the fade charges are going to be worth, the possible levels that might have to go on it, and using Life and Cure 4 effectively to kind of funnel some experience onto the 3 kind of core party members, while also knowing that they can get those spell charges out at the end. So really nice play here by Cheezinator, just kind of showing exactly why, I'm like, oh, maybe I would go with a 4-person party, but Cheezinator going one step further, saying, I'm going to go with a 3-person party for experience, then bring up the 4th person for the spell charges when I need it. And that's just that even stronger move.
And it's interesting. I think Cheese got somewhat better rolls for those fades than Thunderclaude did. Both of them use the Wizard Staff strats, so they're running lockstep on that front as well.
Yeah, Thunderclaude, once again, also was too broke the first time he visited Elfland, so coming back with some money to pick up all those delicious goodies at level 3. There's a few people who said that they were just joining, and yes, our magic is absolutely insane. You're welcome, runners. I rolled the seed. We have Cure 4, Life, and Fade and Exit at level 1 and 3, so pretty good.
Yeah, this was whenever we were looking at the draft choices for this seed, it was essentially if the magic is good, the seed is good. If the magic is bad, the seed is going to be awful. And fortunately for the runners, the magic was good, so the seed has run pretty well so far.
I mean, magic being good is very different too for white mages versus black mages. Black mages has like 4 spells that they can get early that are going to make the seed fairly straightforward, or like pretty easy through the early game in terms of all 3 level 3 elemental sweepers plus nuke. And then even any of the level 2 elemental sweepers or zap or quad X, those things can all make it like decent magic early. Versus white mages for damage, it is fade or bust, and they got fade, so...
Gloomchew mentioning gonna need some rock gall facts soon. Well, the fact is they've killed plenty of rock galls because these rock galls, fortunately for them, rolled pretty easy. Well, fairly easy at least. Certainly easy enough when confronted with 3 fades to the face.
Yeah, my rock gall facts right now is that Jack cannot distinguish between rock galls and mud galls at the moment and just keeps misnaming them.
Ruh-roh. So Cheese turns in his slab, and of course, because we know that Lefane is down in Elfland land, it's going to be a pretty easy check to see what that slab contains.
Yeah, and I expect we'll be seeing a lower Elfland dock, as that's going to let him head down to Ordeals and Waterfall just a little bit quicker.
Right.
Of course, whenever you... Oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I was going to say, of course, whenever you do that, it's immediately going to turn into the crystal.
Of course, because why not? Crown wouldn't be quite so bad. Ruby wouldn't be quite as bad, but yeah, it wouldn't be surprising in the slightest.
So our runner is both very close right now. Thunderclaude, I believe, has a few more levels than Cheezinator overall, or probably just more overall experience. But, you know, these runners are very, very close right now. Nothing really separating the two other than, you know, Cheezinator just being slightly ahead exploration-wise, while Thundercloud, as I said, may be slightly ahead level-wise. And that's about it at this point. So definitely a close race, as we would expect between these two top runners.
Absolutely. I mean, Thunderclaude, of course, has already grabbed the chime out of ice. That's probably the only major difference in terms of key items for the moment. When Thunderclaude turns in his slab, he will get his key.
Yeah, that chime is important.
Yes, because that opens up the first 3 floors, the Mirage floors of Sky Tower, which can open up a lot of chests, a lot of good potential for ribbons, or perhaps more gold bracelets, or anything that the runners might want to equip on those lonely little white mages.
So Cheezinator choosing to do the key locks here before he leaves the Inner Sea, and this makes a lot of sense. We're still looking for 2 loose items, and the key locks are generally fairly quick. We'll see if he goes up to the dwarf, and we get a bridge boss at around the 37-minute mark.
It looks like Thunderclaude might be taking a similar tack, although he's going about it from a slightly different direction.
Yeah, I don't believe he's translated his slab yet either, so...
I was actually about to mention that myself. I couldn't remember if he had or not. I don't believe he has.
Crab Cakes, our finalist, pointing out in chat that Mirage has had the floater like on repeat as a loose item, so Sky provides every time.
I was about to say, yes, Crab Cakes is one of the main advocates for the Sky play, and it's definitely very much paid off in a lot of these seeds. Meanwhile, it looks like Cheezinator is deciding to visit the Wrath of Fate upon those sandworms a few times, which makes pretty good sense. It's about as good of a grind.
Now, we have a question. GVS asking in chat, Game 1. This is actually just a special third place matchup, so this is going to be a best of 1. So we will not be seeing a Game 2 or a Game 3. This is it. This is what decides it all. Who gets third place in this tournament?
Correct. And this, as Jat was mentioning earlier, this was not originally a scheduled match. but these runners decided they wanted to see who would end up resolving themselves as third place. And so as a result, we have this wonderful matchup tonight. So it looks like Thunderclaude has now translated his slab, so he is going to be making, of course, the same play. He's going to be getting his key shortly. And Cheezinator looks like he has commenced this solo black belt grind, and the sandworms seem to be pretty good for that.
Yeah, this is going to be not the fastest thing in the world, but it will happen. Notably, right now, missing out on a few more key items. So, like, usually you actually want to do your fetch quests early. Like, ideally, you're doing your fetch quests with the floater, but one of the benefits of doing the fetch quests early, if it's not a choice really, it's more if you get those items, is if you see all those fetch quest items early, which of course are the crown, the crystal, the TNT, the adamant, the slab, the bottle. If you get those early, that just is going to give you that 5% EXP boost without having to check more key items. So,
right, and CC mentioning in chat that because Cheese has virtually no key items, or at least not very many, that does make this grind a little bit less effective, perhaps, than it would be a bit later.
Yeah, so I saw someone in chat, Velsweet, asked in chat, Marsh still in play, and Marsh is always still in play, unless Caleb's running the seed, in which case he'll check Marsh immediately. But Marsh, and Caleb's a runner, one of our commentators as well, and also a runner in this tournament, who liked to check Marsh early and often when all other runners were avoiding it. Marsh is still in play for loose items, but it is not incentivized, so we're not going to be seeing these runners go there unless they are either forced to or want to make kind of a gamble. Though at this point, it may not be that much of a gamble, as there's not a ton of chest density anywhere else. We have key locks, we have Mirage 1 to 3, and we have Earth 1 to 3. And somewhere in there has to be our... Oh, and we also have Waterfall and Ordeals. So we have 2 incentive locations, plus all of those checks. So a number left, but no. Marsh not out of it yet.
And it's worth noting we have seen Earth 1 because Cheese was checking that earlier, and it didn't really seem to have a whole lot worth grabbing. Certainly nothing loose in terms of incentives.
Yeah, it just had a gold bracelet, which was kind of nice, but not exactly what they were looking for.
Right.
And Thunderclaude going to be going through the Pillar Maze. Now, the Pillar Maze is quite nice if you have Warp, as it allows you to go back 1 spot, but with just Exit, it's only going to let you skip the last spike tile if you want, and the walk out of Ordeals 1. So not as nice, but still a little bit of a speed up.
Spells that pointing out in chat, the Temple of Fiends key lock provides. We've not seen the runners check I believe the Dwarf key locked, or Canaria Castle, or Toph, which makes sense given the way that both of them swung around the southern part of the continent to do their checks. But it could, of course, obviously those are candidates for looses as well, so we'll see if they go back and check them a little bit later.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if Cheezinator just continued on to the Dwarf Castle from where he is now, or the Dwarf Castle, the Dwarf Cave from where he is now to check those key locks. Just because he's so close, but going to Canary Castle and Toph may be a little bit slower, as he has to walk all the ways back around, so we'll have to see what decision he makes. They're both understandable either way.
And it looks like, well, Cheese is at least getting those spell charges back and health back before he continues his grind. It looks like he's taking his grind at least up to 32.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to commit to the time that it takes to Dan off your characters to do the solo grind, you really, in most cases are going to 32 at minimum, and sometimes going a little bit higher. We'll have to see where he decides to stop here. Another determining factor that I've seen that it didn't originally occur to me, but a lot of experienced runners say is just, when your health pots run out, or when your houses run out, or when your health runs out, rather than, saying, okay, 32 plus as much as I can get away with. So we'll have to see what he uses as kind of his stop point.
Yeah, sure. That makes sense. I mean, when your resources run out, that's a pretty natural signal that, maybe it's time to go elsewhere.
Thunderclaude making it through the Ordeals maze, and about to get our nice chest checks here. So Ordeals is a nice location to go. It's a little bit slow to get to, it's a little bit slow to get through, but when you get to the top, you get both an incentive location as well as 8 chests. So
it looked like he had a pretty good time going through the pillars, too. I didn't notice anything particularly onerous in regards to his pillar choices, so good on him.
Yeah, I think the warp backs were early, so he didn't. It's not like the dreaded third pillar back to the beginning type of ordeals.
Oh heavens, no. It's good that he didn't see that.
Ooh, Thunderclaude narrowly dodging the exit boss. Now, the exit boss, of course, has been made a little bit nicer. So there's now a prompt which says, "Are you sure you want to exit?" So you have to press A twice, but we've still seen it happen to everyone.
Thunderclaude picking up his herb as the incentive item in ordeals and choosing not to confront that last spike tile. He decides to just exit on out and make his way across the Merry Sea. He's going to go, I presume, back to Elfland to turn that herb in.
Yep, and that makes a lot of sense. So there is a possibility of you going to Waterfall first, but I think Elfland is so close. I think if it was Crystal, he would have gone to to Waterfall first, but because it's the herb, he can just go straight up to Elfland. Yeah.
Well, it is worth noting, since Provoca is Elfland, it's a little bit longer of a trek than normal, but
right.
It's still, I don't know, it's still kind of 6 half dozen in that sense.
Well, Elf Castle is still Elf Castle. So
that's true, right. Yeah, forgive me, I forgot.
Gregory Puff, the Duckling Dawn asking, have we found all 3 loose? No, we found 2 loose so far. 1 loose so far. We found the loose canal and the loose slab.
So M4 asking in chat, why do you want the black belt at 32? Because you get, and chat's mentioning the hits. The black belt is guaranteed a certain number of hits at specific levels. Ragnarok mentioning 32 gets you 8 hits and 42 gets you 10. It's also worth noting that black belt, just in general in regards to levels, gets a lot higher magic defense gains per level than his promoted form, the master, will get. It is 4 per level for a black belt and 1 per level for a master, although neither runner's found the tail yet to promote, so that's not really too much of a concern.
Yeah, and the other note is, something that's really important to understand in this game is that this doesn't have traditional scaling. This actually has kind of D&D style scaling. So if you're level 1 and you do 10 damage and you gain 11, you gain 1 strength, you go up to 11 damage. And then at level 3, you go up to 12 damage, so on and so forth. But in this game, every once in a while, at this point, 21, 32, 42, you're getting an extra hit. Instead, what it goes is 10 damage, 11 damage, 12 damage, 26 damage, because then you get the extra hit plus the strength. So getting those extra hits are huge damage multipliers, rather than just, little tiny gains evenly.
It's worth noting that Onrak has become Gaia, which of course means we can get that bottle check, and Thunderclaude has also found gold bracelets and protect rings, both in the armor shop, so that will do very well for equipping, well, everybody in his party right now until the black belt gets higher level and gets more natural defense.
Yeah, Pro Ring's absolute best in slot armor for your gauntlet or your hand armor, and provides protection against death as well as the best absorb you can get. And the gold bracelet's going to be providing 24 absorb and is basically best in slot except for the Opal Cheerio for everyone right now before promotion. So those are some really nice pickups for Thunderclaude there.
He's popped the bottle, and apparently the fairy was wearing a little bit of royal gear because she gave him the crown. So now he's going to go do his waterfall check, and he's going to be able to come away with 2 key items in pretty quick succession.
Black Mages 756 asking, have we found the vendor item? And I do not believe we have.
I've not seen it. But there is... there's one other place in the area where Thunderclaude is where he could conceivably go check, and that is the vendor in the desert off to the west of where he is right now. We'll see if he makes that check before he leaves, since they haven't found the vendor item yet. I wouldn't be surprised if he does make that check, just in case.
Yeah, no, I definitely see him making that check before he leaves. So Cheezinator looks like he's ended his grind here at 39. So 39 is kind of a virtual 42. And the reason it's a virtual 42 is because A, he probably ran out of resources, but B, he's expecting to get 3 levels from the rest of the seed. And that makes a lot of sense, as he has not yet cleared Sea or Sky, which are two late-game dungeons, as well as Topher itself, Temple of Fiends Revisited, and he'll have to take some fights along the way there. So he's expecting to basically hit 42 once he gets to maybe Tia or Kraken or Chaos.
We are seeing the Dwarf Cave for the first time, and Cheese is exploring the Dwarf Lock, so let's see if there's anything lucrative there. It doesn't look that way yet, so this might prove... Yep, unfortunately, big disappointment. No dwarves get hoorayed, sadly, so off he goes.
But Cheezinator has completed his grind at around the 49-minute mark. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, doesn't Thunderclaude also get to do that? Have to do that at some point? And the answer is he might not go as high, depending on how comfortable he is, and he also will get it faster just with all of these additional fetch quest items that he's already going to be turning in. These key items are going to boost how quickly, by 20% or 30%, how quickly he's going to get those levels. So yes, Thunderclaude almost certainly will have to do it, but may not go as high and may take a little bit less time.
It looks like Thunderclaude's found what may be a fairly lucrative tile in all those Zombles, although I don't think it's going to be as lucrative as anything they've found so far.
Here we go, the 6 chests in Waterfall. And we have the Rod. So the Rod, of course, if I'm saying this correctly, we are now 1 item from Go Mode, and that's going to be a floaterless Go Mode still possible here, if we find a loose loot, or we turn in one of our fetch quests into the loot.
Right. And yeah, of course, we're still looking for that vendor item. It's one of the things that could possibly be it. But yeah, we just lack the loot. Once we find it, we are good to go.
So we quickly touched on tri-state movement, and what that means is that the canoe, although in this case it was the incentive location, the canoe and the floater both have an over 50% shot to be loose. So we're guaranteed to have 3 loose items plus a loose canal in these seeds, no matter whether the movement, the tri-state doesn't actually affect that. But what it does mean is that it's much more likely that they're going to have to dig the floater out of some dungeon somewhere. But if we hit Go Mode before we hit the floater, and promotion doesn't really matter too much in this seed, we could very well see these runners just put the pedal to the metal and go clear out all the Fiend dungeons and defeat Chaos before they're in the air.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially given that you found the magic in white magic so early and often, and of course with Black Belt it generally being better to not promote anyhow, yeah, this could very easily be a floaterless seed, and I think both runners would be pretty comfortable with that.
And our tracker, thank goodness, we have Mr. Reese, if you're helping us out, because he just pointed out to me what I forgot, which is that on-rack is floater locked, so this cannot be a floaterless seed. So we will need the floater.
Okay, fair enough.
This is why we need our trackers, We're just blabbing away, thinking we know what we're talking about, but trackers keeping us on the ball, so thanks to Reese for helping us with both, giving us some great notes, as well as, clicking all the icons and making sure that the viewers know what's going on for each of our runners.
Oh, Thunderclaude finding out that the kindly king in Ostos' castle has a tail, so again, talking about promotion not really being necessary for these seeds, so he promptly rejects it.
I'm interested he didn't just take it just for the 5% EXP boost, but decided it wasn't worth it.
It looks like he's choosing to take the waters that he found in Ostos' castle. Of course, I don't think he's found that front grind yet, and now he finds it with the sandworms, so be interesting to see if he chooses to take a grind here as well.
And those sandworms, just so squishy. Okay, so he is making the play. So he said, I'm now going to grind. I want the tail for the 5% EXP boost.
Makes sense. I mean, Ostos is going to be... Well, down it goes. I was going to say, Ostos is going to be easy to kill, and then it was dead.
Oh, and actually not wanting anything to do with the grind at the moment either, so gonna leave, go do something else first.
Yeah, I would presume, he's, like you were mentioning, of course, the 5% with each of those key items, it looks like he's choosing to very much go for the key item, the key item push before he goes diving for any grinds, which makes sense. Of course, obviously, it means it's going to go a little faster.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to note is that if Thunderclaude did not have such good magic, he could easily, need the Black Belt to be his primary damage dealer. But right now, when your primary damage dealer is a level 7 spell in the vanilla game, which basically wipes everything in front of you, there's no reason to need to grind the Black Belt up early. And he could even try going in with like a low-level Black Belt with, swinging a Masa and just try and fade his way through a bunch of stuff.
Sure, yeah. This seed has worked out very well in regards to the availability of all of the items and magic, and I have a feeling both runners are probably pretty comfortable with where they are at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to get to see Cheezinator kind of retrace Thunderclaude's steps. So although we know it's kind of a little bit harder to commentate on Cheezinator, you really do have to factor in that he's done that grind, that he's going to be getting through all fights a little bit faster, that the Fiends are going to go a little bit faster, and that his Topher is already quite safe. So...
Right, yeah, and this of course is where obviously a race like this is fun, because you see, of course, the Divergence and Cheese doing his grind early, Thunderclaude waiting until later to do their grind, and we'll see if that extra time early on that Cheese is going to be getting out of each of these fights, we'll see if that ends up paying dividends, or if Thunderclaude's faster grind later on ends up proving those dividends.
So Thunderclaude, to basically no one's surprise, with the chime, with the cube, gonna go Sky, 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 Sky. And with what I've been seeing so far this tournament, Sky will have, the defense, the Masa, both remaining loose, including the floater. Just a few things.
Of course it will. Why not?
Oh, and 2 ribbons. I forgot about those.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, you can't leave those out.
Mirage 1 empty so far, though.
The Purr Ring's not a bad pickup, although, we've already seen those available in the shop, but still, it's always good to find some for yourself.
Guards with Sleep Touch, more annoying than anything else. And once again, this party is not good at running, so...
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of time.
A little bit, yeah, although it doesn't mean that they're not going to try. Well, like no good items on level 1 of Mirage, so we'll see if greater than, less than provides.
Yeah, meanwhile, Cheezinator just getting through the waterfall, and you can see, wow, that Black Belt doing over 1,000 damage. Not quite over 9,000, but, more than enough to get through a Final Fantasy randomizer seed.
Yeah, well, we can't please Vegeta every day, but hey, if we can take down the monsters, I think that'll be good enough.
Having to take a 3 Chimera fight, not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, let's discuss the other locations outside of here right now. So what we have available to us is we have all of Earth available. So Earth 1 has been checked, but Earth 2, 3, and 4 all have chests on them. And then we also have Marsh Cave, as well as Canaria Castle Lock and Toph Lock. So Toph Lock just 3 chests, Canaria Castle Lock is 6. Earth is about, at this point, maybe 24 or so, 20, somewhere in the 20s. So Sky, by far, has the most chests remaining.
So, of course, with the equipment that Thunderclaude has, all the key items, it makes perfect sense to go ahead and check Sky now, but unfortunately, it looks like Mirage is doing him no favors at the moment.
Cheezinator picking up his rod, nice to find another Go Mode item, and gonna exit out.
So, I will be curious to see where Cheese goes next, because I would presume he would be going to turn things in, because he doesn't have the chime or the cube yet, and so he can't make the same Sky play that Thunderclaude is undertaking at the moment.
Yeah, he also hasn't checked Ice Cave, so he's probably gonna, because the chime wasn't ice, so he'll be turning in some stuff and then heading over to Ice as the last incentive location, as well as a bunch of boxes, and then I assume we'll be seeing him join Thunderclaude in Sky. So a fairly linear seed with only a major strategic divergence rather than any critical route divergences at this point.
Right. Also, hello, 3-eye grind.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is. I mean, okay. To be fair, the sandworms are a pretty good grind tile as well. But this is a pretty nice advantage for Thunderclaude to know that that's there, as he will have both the key item boost as well as the eyes just being a very safe high EXP grind.
So, of course, we mentioned earlier we would be curious to see if he takes fill-in-the-blank grind, and so far Thunderclaude has chosen not to. I, again, will be curious to see if he decides to leg it back to the 3-eye grind after this, but at the very least, like you said, the knowledge that that's there is certainly key. If he chooses to go ahead and just finish up Sky now, then he has the advantage of knowing, hey, this is a pretty good place to go with obviously a little bit of time investment to get to it, but not a terrible amount.
Yeah, but Thunderclaude just seems to be mostly in go fast mode, so we'll have to see if he changes that.
Yeah.
But he is going to be full clearing this with 2 loose. This makes 100% sense, and we wouldn't really expect anything different from Thunderclaude at this point. Especially at this point, with the knowledge he has checked all the incentive locations, which means he knows that the floater is required to complete the seed. He also knows that the floater locks 2 kind of immediate incentive checks, which very well could turn up the loot. So basically, once he hits floater, he could just be in go mode with that floater, because he'll find on-rack as well as be able to turn in get the item from Vicky the pirate, who's going to be either landlocked or mountain locked, or surrounded by forest, so a little bit off-brand for him. Or the shop item could also just be the loot, and in both those cases, he's just going to be in go mode on floater.
It's also worth noting Thunderclaude has found the Masamune in, I believe it was Sky 1, so he has himself now a pointy stick that he can wield, as looks like Cheese is going to check the Coneria lock chest.
Ooh, that Masa is very interesting, because the Masa makes it so that I think the triple fade strat is more doable, like 3 fade casters, without even grinding up the black belt or keeping the black belt in, above 21, obviously, or I don't actually know what the black belt breakpoints are for Masa. It was posted in Discord earlier, but get a few swings of the Masa and just go with 3 fade casters.
Well, Cheese made his check of the Coneria chests for us, and unfortunately didn't really find anything particularly compelling. And the Aegis Shield would be nice if a fighter was in there, but there's no fighter, so whoopsie. I think he forgot for a second about going over to Toph, or maybe just took the wrong route to do it, but now it looks like he's going back to check those as well.
Yeah, Thunderclaude continuing to clear out the spider floor, as we call it, for, fairly obvious reasons here. But right now, the big find so far is just the Masa, but we do still have the most chest-dense area, which is Sky 3 coming up.
Alright, so Cheese finds wizards waiting for him on the grind tile in Temple of Fiends, and first chest doesn't look to have been just a little bit of money, but we'll see in a moment if those other 2 chests work out, as he seems to be getting every encounter in the book so far. Alright, so it looks like not much for Thunderclaude so far on the spider floor. And just Opal Gauntlet, or Opal equipment in Temple of Fiends, so unfortunately that key lock didn't turn into much either.
Cheezinator making that nice reset play, strategically saving so he doesn't have to walk all the ways back, and just resetting out, and now it looks like he's going to be making an Ice Cave play.
Yeah, that's definitely a smart movement strategy, and I've seen a fair number of runners make it during this tournament. I started making it during the tournament, but I'm not nearly as good at it as these guys are. So definitely a smart play, because that's a lot of distance to walk if those 3 chests don't mean anything. And so he chose the better part of Valor and had himself a nice quick exit spot, or a nice quick reset spot.
Yeah, and Cheezinator going to Ice Cave from the inner sea does mean that he's going to be navigating this river system quite a bit, and it's going to kind of potentially drive him somewhere other than to Sky, which currently is looking to be empty. I mean, the Masa is good, but Masa is not progression. So we could see a key route divergence coming up here soon.
Right, yeah. It's, of course, the efficacy of it, like you said, Sky is unfortunately not providing yet, well, except for Masa. But then again, of course, all we need really is one chest. We just need that one floater to pop up, and then suddenly things open up immensely for whoever finds it.
Yeah, now one thing of note though is that if Thunderclaude never does grind, he's going to just have basically a straight up one orb lead, as he's probably going to be taking out Tia and almost in Earth Cave by the time that Cheezinator enters Earth Cave. So Cheezinator has the grind in the back pocket, but if Thunderclaude doesn't stop to do that, this is just going to be a one orb lead. So 4 chests left.
And it looks like all that Thunderclaude has found, of course, is the Masa. I found the second katana, and just basically various items, nothing too extraordinary, unfortunately. At least unfortunately for him. But then again, you've got the greed chests here, and of course, I've seen plenty of tournament seeds where they've provided, even for runners who are just doing greed checks. And DC pointing out in chat that doesn't really think that Thunder needs to grind. I think Thunder seems to be more, I would say, taking a walking grind, but since this party's not all that great at running away, it's probably more, it's more going ahead and killing them is the better part of Valor in this case.
So for those of you who like our robot chicken friends, we will be getting to the Bridge of Destiny here after one more floor, so get your blessed RNGs out in chat.
Unfortunately for Thunderclaude, Sky has completely washed out, save that Masa. So, sad for him.
For anyone who's saying Sky is a dud or F's for Sky, if we get a robot chicken, Sky will not be a dud. Sky will forever live on in our hearts.
And our tracker Reese pointing out that Marsh is still on the table. It is indeed, because neither runner has checked it yet. So, wouldn't it be something, though, for a loose item to be there when both runners have been studiously avoiding it?
I do sincerely hope it's not in Marsh, otherwise these runners may have some choice words for me after giving them such, a beautiful seed and then locking a floater in key-locked Marsh or something like that. That's just not a nice thing to do. Friends don't make friends go through key-locked Marsh.
I mean, at least they have the key with which to do it. It could be even worse if you make them have to dive Marsh twice.
Oh, this is some juicy EXP, although these metal slimes do have a little bit of HP, but nothing two fades won't take care of.
Hello!
This seed has officially been blessed by our robot overlord, and Thunderclaude wants everything to do with Warmech. And I agree with this, as long as Warmech, doesn't do everything, but...
Right. Yeah, because speaking of, when you say juicy EXP, basically thy name is Warmech.
Yeah, now there is a pretty scary risk right now of Warmech just having, nuke and wiping this entire party. But as long as he's punching out a few people at a time, should be okay. Now, this is bringing up kind of an important note, which is lacking from the white spell list right now. Which is Invis or any type of evasion stacking. And Thunderclaude takes a wipe on Warmech. Oh boy.
That is unfortunate. And the only... I suppose the only silver lining, if one could call it that, in regards to this, is since he knows that there's not a lot worth picking up, he could just run straight for the top now, so he doesn't have to worry about going through anything else. But of course, that's, like I said, the only silver lining.
Yeah, that's not a good place to take a wipe, and definitely giving Cheese, a chance. As I was mentioning before, if that all went according to plan, they could both be heading towards Earth at the same time, but... Whew! This has given Cheese, a nice, not a lead by any stretch, but a little bit of that advantage back, losing a bunch of time here. He's also lost a bunch of levels too, and that he might not take as many fights on the way up, and that also is unfortunate, as that's just more time lost.
Yeah,
So while our runners, we're about to see Cheezinator go check out some cool stuff, I'll give a quick recap of what's going on, as we've been here for about an hour. So thanks for anyone who's tuning in. This is the Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring 2020 tournament. This is our third place matchup, a best of one. Winner takes all the glory for coming in third in this huge tournament. Thanks to everyone who's come out to make this successful. I'm Jad in the booth, joined by Courant, and our tracker tonight is Reese. And we are looking at two great runners. We started out with the freest, nicest siege you've ever seen, with level 1 Fade and Exit and level 3 Life and Cure 4. So everything you could want with this funky draft. Cheese challenged Thunder with a White Mage. Thunder responded with 2 White Mages, and we ended up with a Black Mage from Cheese, a Blackbelt from Cheese, and that is where we are standing now. At this point, Thunderclaude just took a tough wipe to Warmech, so he's going to be climbing back up. Well, Cheezinator looks like he's also going to be coming to Mirage, which is a little bit unfortunate, as we know the progression is elsewhere. So that's kind of where we are now, and at this point we know that they need the loose floater, and the loose floater is either going to be in the Earth Cave, the first major Fiend dungeon in the vanilla game, or Marsh, the first major dungeon in the vanilla game. So back to the beginning we go.
I was about to mention, I think Thunderclaude maybe had forgotten exactly what chest the Mounds Immune was in, because he checked all 5 of those, but now that he's grabbed his super sword, I don't see him going back to check much of anything else.
Yeah, I was actually just watching an interesting documentary on how humans think about various things, and that's super common, where we kind of have to put things into more general buckets. So he just remembered, right side sky 1 rather than the particular box, because his brain didn't really register that it was box 22 in sky or whatever. He just registered the kind of simplification. So that happens all the time.
Oh, sure. That makes sense. Yeah. And it's, as long as you've got that general location, it's probably about 15 seconds total. So yeah, it's not much of a loss at all, really.
But unfortunately for Cheezinator, also made the decision to go to Sky. So now we can see basically Thundercloude's lead at this point is 1 full Sky clear. And wants nothing to do with Warmech the second time.
I was going to say, this time Thunderclaude choosing discretion rather than trying to beat up the chicken.
On the other hand, Cheezinator in a much better spot to take on Warmech to get some levels on those White Mages, as with that level 42 Black Belt, he's going to be able to punch Warmech dead before Warmech punches him.
Absolutely, and it looks like Warmech has been obviously we've seen him twice on Thunderclaude's side now, so it seems like Warmech is not being shy tonight, which is obviously good for us, and perhaps good for the runners too, should they choose to benefit from it.
Yeah, I think it's good for Cheezinator. I think if Cheezinator sees a mech, he's going to take it and get some levels on those White Mages so they get outside of nuke range.
Right. But it looks like Thunderclaude obviously got maybe a couple of those levels back that he had lost initially, but as you mentioned, he's not taken nearly as many fights coming up this time, so I'm a little surprised, I guess he decided he just didn't really want a part of a 3-eye grind at this point, but I'm a little surprised he didn't take that fight at least one more time, because him knowing what levels he might have lost, or that he did lose, I figure he might want to try to make it up with a relatively easy encounter.
Yeah, I think he's just committing, or actually, I wouldn't even say committing. I think what he does is he's going to go for all the kind of Fiend dungeons, kind of get a feel for where he is, and then he can decide, if he wants to make a dive of Topher with Fades and the level 25, 26 Black Belt, or if he wants to spend a little bit of time, just quickly hop back to, say, the Mudgalls and grind for a little bit to get that Black Belt the last few levels. So that's a decision he can make. He can also go into Topher wipe and then wipe if he needs to. So he's got plenty of great grind tiles at this point.
Right. The chat pointing out that Tia has Stun Touch and a good bit of HP, so we've got ourselves quite a fight on our hands. Unfortunately, it looks like some of Thunderclaude's fades are rolling fairly low, so he's not getting the benefit of a whole lot of good damage on this end.
Yeah, and this is a very tanky Tia, and he can have up to 2300 HP. So something that, Thunderclaude's probably a little bit worried here. Needs to get some lucky crits on that Black Belt and cast the rest of these Fade charges.
And it would appear that he's not getting a lot of the, well, at least the bigger crits that he's looking for, perhaps. Those fades aren't doing a whole lot of work either. So it's a little bit of a dicey fight on Thunderclaude's side, although they likely will prevail.
Yeah, and this is really where that, Cheezinator's high-level black belt is going to make a difference, not only in the safety for this fight, but also just in the speed of this fight.
Right. And Thunderclaude, unfortunately, getting a nice little damage poison to the face, so that makes his duty a little bit more onerous even, but manages to take down Tiamat and light his second orb.
You're going to see a very different Tia fight on Cheezinator's side. I can promise you that.
Yeah. I mean, having the black belt grinded up is going to make a huge difference.
So we've had some tanky fiends so far. Carrie did not go down super quick. Tia definitely did not go super quick and had very high absorb. So
yeah, and like you mentioned, that in many ways benefits, if that trend continues, that benefits Cheezinator because Cheese very much has more of the one-punch mentality at the moment. And Thunderclaude, of course, not having done that grind yet, doesn't have that advantage.
Yeah, Cheezinator, if, he wants to see a Topher with something that has a fairly deadly, skill or spell list, but biggest thing he wants is a Topher with tons of HP. He wants everyone to just be beefy, so that way the fades don't get the job done, and you actually need to rely on your melee carry.
Right, yeah, he wants the revisited fiends to actually be fiends rather than doorstops, as we can sometimes see them. And
Cheezinator also picking up his Masa, not surprising considering he came here first. He's in full clear mode 100% as you're looking for that floater. Meanwhile, Thunderclaude, very, very likely to be going to Earth. Technically, he could be taking the same path to Marsh, but that would be honestly quite surprising at this point.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would definitely go Earth before Marsh, just because, I mean, you have a fiend waiting there to get faded and punched in the face, so might as well go ahead and take care of that.
Yeah, there's a saying that Earth is one of the slowest dungeons to full clear, but the difference between a go mode Earth and a full clear Earth is nothing compared to not going to Marsh at all.
Yeah.
Now, the one benefit Marsh does have going for it is this a little bit quicker. So Cheezinator could very well be going to Marsh, and that's kind of the way he's sailing at this point, unless there's something for him to turn in first. Or Thunderclaude could be going to Marsh. Okay, he's checking the key locks.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like he's going to have a visit with the dwarves. Unfortunately, we already know that those dwarves don't have much waiting for him, but of course, he'll find out in about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah, so while we're kind of checking some stuff that we already checked, if any of, there's some newer runners here or people who have some questions, feel free to ask them in chat. We also have our fantastic Discord and our Duckling program available for any new runners. So, if you're curious what's going on, you want to try this out yourself, you played Final Fantasy as a kid or as an adult, ask away here or come join our fantastic Discord, which I will attempt to link.
Absolutely.
There we go.
And for those of you who are new, we're going to be having a Duckling Derby pretty soon, where a lot of the new runners, myself included, will get the chance to show off their skills before a thrilling crowd, and we get to show how well we know the randomizers, or don't know the randomizers, perhaps in my case, and, see how well we can do and improve in that sense. That Duckling Derby is going to be coming up, I believe, at the end of June, and it is going to be a lot of fun. So for any of you who are relatively new to the community or who want to be a part of the community, by all means, come on in. The community here is fantastic. They will answer any questions you have and will help you out in myriad ways. So I would strongly encourage you all to join if you wish.
And that is going to be starting on July 3rd. But meanwhile, Thunderclaude showing the plays, going to Marsh is never incorrect. Crab Cakes 2020, always Marsh before Earth, quoted forever. Here we go. What do we have here? Just like Sky always provides, Marsh never provides. Let's see some floaters in key-locked Marsh. Get your hype out in chat.
I was going to say Marsh never provides until it does.
Now, there is actually a legitimate argument to be made for Marsh, which is that Marsh is a relatively quick check. You can just reset out of the top floor. There's only one floor chest to check on the bottom, and you can kind of just get out. If you find nothing, it's 4 or 5 minutes of your life that you're never getting back. But if you find something, it can save you from having to full clear Earth. So, this could be very well the play, and it's definitely not incorrect. It's just there's a little bit more of a gamble chest density-wise.
Right. And unfortunately, the top of Marsh has provided nothing, so now Thunder is headed to the bottom, while Cheese is checking all of those Sky 3 chests. And unfortunately going to soon discover that outside of the Masamune, Sky has provided us nothing but empty hopes and dreams this time around.
Yeah, so chat's having an interesting conversation about the vendor items. And yes, the vendor items cannot be any of the, the dud items, because otherwise you could buy as many power bonks as you want, and that's not what we want to see. It also cannot directly be the canoe, but we do still have the ruby available, so the vendor item could be anything at this point, as well as the TNT and the adamant. So all those could lead to basically any item at this point. So there's nothing that can be ruled out of the vendor item, except for the floater, because we need the floater to get to the vendor item.
Yeah, and there's still, of course, a few items on the table that we've yet to see. We haven't seen the adamant. We haven't seen Matoya's crystal. You mentioned the ruby. We've yet to see the TNT. So, and of course, obviously, the loot is a possibility as well. As well as, I don't think we have found any of the incentivized items, the Thor hammer, opal bracelet, or the power bonk. So, plenty of possibilities.
No, we have not yet. And so while Cheezinator gets onto the Bridge of Destiny, you get your Bless RNGs out in chat. It would not surprise me if he's on the same encounter table. There we go.
Hello, Warmac. And it looks like he is choosing... Well, he tried to run away, and now he's trying to punch it to death, and he does punch it to death, but just has the black belt left after that encounter.
And unfortunately, that's actually the opposite person that he wants the experience to go on at this point. The incremental gain he's getting from going to 42 to 45 is functionally 0 MDef. I mean, he's getting MDef, but it doesn't really matter as much at this point, as he's already basically at the highest he needs to go for most spells that he cares about. As well as, the extra damage, not going to make that big of a difference. So, unfortunately for Cheezinator, that was not ideal for him. He's probably going to get pretty close to a level 50 black belt here.
And it's worth noting also, Thunder found a loose floater in Keylocked Marsh, so the Keylocked Marsh has it. And he's also found a second war mech, which looks like he noped out of all of it.
Oh my goodness. What just happened in that 30-second period? So we found a loose floater in Keylocked Marsh, and we wiped with a level 45 black belt to war mech.
Wow, 30 seconds of insanity, and Cece's mentioning in chat, this just went back to being an even race, so holy cow.
Wow, I cannot believe that. I'm gonna get so much heckling in chat after this is done from these runners for putting a loose floater in Keylocked Marsh. Oh man, I thought I was doing so well with that level 1 magic, everything was looking hunky-dory, but whew.
Jat giveth, Jat taketh away.
Evidently. This is Commentator's Curse at its finest, but there you go. You know what? Thunderclaude doing it for the people, giving you that key-locked floater in the Marsh Cave.
It looks like Gaia has become on rack, so he can go ahead and dive into the sea if he'd like, and he found the vendor item is the loot in Gaia on rack.
So at that, Thunderclaude has entered go mode at the 1 hour and 22 minute marks, and all he has left is to take out Kraken, take out Lich, and he will be in Topher. So this should be very, very quick. Now you get to see, our finest runners at their finest, as they are just going to be blazing through. Well, Thunderclaude will just be blazing through the rest of the seed, and I'm very curious to see if Cheezinator checks Marsh before Earth, as that is a play that he's made before.
Yeah, that, in some sense, I think that may very well end up defining this run. As to, if Cheezinator does check Marsh, then that'll even things back up, but if he chooses to dive Earth first, well, yeah, that may very well be the difference.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if Thunderclaude decides to go check for Lefane, which is going to be Provoca, because that could give him a fairly important power bonk for the strat that he's currently doing, as
Ooh.
well as those level 2 spells, and he could really use a wall, and he can really use Invis too. So I think Provoke is going to be a pretty important check at this point.
Mm-hmm. And Thunderclaude noping out of the sea after getting cracked over the head by the lobsters. So I think he has decided he's going to check elsewhere, and Cheezinator is engaging the robot chicken once again.
Wow, this is a bold Cheezinator deciding to tempt fate against the Warmac. Round 2, his White Mage gets zapped down again. Yeah.
That poor White Mage, or those poor White Mages, my goodness. So Thunderclaude checking the key locked, and unfortunately he now discovers that Bane Sword is the best thing that he can find there, which is not the worst thing in the world, but it's not exactly super compelling.
It's very important to recognize at this point that Thunderclaude is in full go mode, and he's deciding to prioritize checking chests. And what that means is that he does not feel comfortable going into Topher at the current stage. Now, I think he kind of had two different decisions he could do here. He could either have branched off and opened chests like he did, or he could have gone and ground up some levels and just said, you know what, I'm going to grind my black belt and then go into Topher with my pseudo ribbon on my with a level 42 black belt. But he's choosing instead to try and look for a ribbon. This makes me think he might check Provoker for the power bonk and go into Topher without grinding that black belt in a stationary fashion. But we'll have to see if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah, the search for a ribbon is obviously a pretty compelling idea, because the ribbon providing all those protections that it does, it makes perfect sense to go for it, and it's an understandable move on his part. He's got everything else. Once he finds at least one ribbon, possibly two, then it's, like you said, off to the races.
So I blinked and I missed it, but there was a Tia on Cheese's screen. So Warmech causing some problems, Tia not so much, making up, a good solid 30-40 seconds on Thunderclaude just in terms of the Tia fight alone.
Right. Now Thunderclaude checking all the Cardia chests, which, of course, obviously they're not going to really worry about promoting at this point, although he does have the tail. I don't really expect him to use it. But, a second Light Axe, that could be at least decent.
Yeah, surprising he didn't just save strat or something out, but exiting's fairly fast. Okay, this side he's deciding I want to save strat because this is a longer walk. So saving while in the air will actually put you back in the air, and that will save you just, that little bit of animation while the airship has to go back in there. So, once again, another nice little veteran move right there.
Yeah, that's one of those moves that I really wish I had known before I started playing in the tournament. I didn't see that until I noticed other runners doing it, and then soft forehead, too hard wooden desk a few times on my part.
So no free ribbons available. Thunderclaude now has some decisions to make. Can decide to go to Earth to check a few chests there, can decide to go to Earth and see and clear them out, or could decide to go grind his black belt. And it looks like the decision right now is Earth first. We'll have to keep our eyes open for how many chests he... Ooh, okay, this is pretty telling. These are relatively quick checks, but not the fastest in the world.
Yeah, so Thunderclaude, it really is all in trying to find that ribbon. And unfortunately, we've already seen the Earth 1 check, and we know that, unfortunately, a ribbon is not among the things that it provides, so...
So big decision here for Cheese. Does he go to Earth, which is more chest dense, or does he go to Marsh, which is faster? I feel like after wiping to Warmech, you may feel a little bit behind, so I wouldn't be surprised to see if Cheezinator makes the more of a gamble to go to Marsh at this point. This is also game 1 of 1, best of 1 against two great runners, so may want to get an edge by going to Marsh, not knowing that is exactly the play Thunder has already made.
And the play that he needs to make, incidentally.
And he's doing it, the mad lad.
So yeah, it looks like what had previously been an advantage for Thunderclaude is about to swing back to even, because that floater, I think Cheezinator is going to find it probably around the same time point in the Marsh dive that Thunderclaude did, but it'll obviously swing that back into the middle of the fuel gauge, so to speak.
And oh boy, this is very, very interesting as we have a extremely close race. As Thunderclaude, if he starts opening chests, we were like, hey, if you check Marsh, you don't have to full clear Earth. But if he starts full clearing Earth, this is just going to let Cheezinator come into the lead, both in terms of like progression, but also just that 42 black belt cannot be overstated. Like, that is just an absolute powerhouse, no ribbons required.
Right. Also, I have a feeling Thunderclaude might be wishing that NPC Guillotine were turned on in this seed, because all those bats with one line of text could be sent to meet their makers very quickly.
And Thunderclaude going for the full clear here. This is not a fast check by any stretch.
Oh no. And Burt Reynolds asking, did Thunder have any ribbons? I don't think either runner has found a ribbon yet.
No, and we've cleared everything but C. May have skipped a few chests in Marsh. I didn't see them exactly pull the chest out of Marsh. Also could be, yeah, C. Wow, C. Or like Masa and carry 2 checks. Troll? Question mark.
Yeah, I think Thunderclaude, once he got his floater, he got the heck out of Dodge. So I think he chose not to check about half of the chest at the bottom of Marsh, which could end up coming back maybe to bite him a little bit if a ribbon was in one of those, or maybe more than one of those.
Yeah, and every chest that he checks that isn't a ribbon is just giving more and more of an advantage to Cheezinator, who once again committed to the grind early. And wow, this looks like Thunderclaude may go check TFC Earth.
Yep, that's what he's doing.
This is a super slow check for one chest, so this is desperate for a ribbon. I think Thunderclaude thinks that if he finds a ribbon, he can just start go moding. But this might be, every chest he opens is time that he could have been spending grinding, and grinding not only would make it so that he doesn't have to open chests, it also just makes Topher safer in general. So this is just not turning out for Thunderclaude unless he finds a ribbon super soon, and even if he does, he's going to be in a much worse position than Cheezinator.
Yeah. Because now, of course, like you said, it's coming back to Cheezinator's early grind. He has a black belt that can basically punch through, well, pretty much concrete. And Thunderclaude's black belt can punch through wood, but nothing else. Not yet, at least. But Thunderclaude picking up a loose TNT in Earth, so that, of course, could become one of the extra incentive items, and of course I'm sure he's hoping that it may be the power bomb, but we shall see if and when he chooses to turn that in.
Yeah, and the bomb, really the only thing that could be that matters.
Yeah.
But at this point, Thunderclaude is guaranteed to get the bonk, assuming he goes to a Vanilla Lefane to find Provoca, because that is his third loose. So if he wants all the items, he can get all the items.
Yeah.
Not surprising, considering he found the third loose, because if it wasn't there, that means it was in Marsh or C.
Right.
And yeah, Thunderclaude just continues to full clear Earth, and Cheezinator gonna be in Earth around the same time, as he's already done kind of those key lock checks that Thunderclaude spent some time doing. Cheezinator made you C first. Okay, yeah, doing an incentive check, trying to find his loot.
Yeah. And this is our first check of Sarda.
So Sarda saying that you do not come to me unless you can fly, because the ruby, of course, the other way to get to Sarda.
Right. And CC saying, Gregglypuff saying all 3 ribbons in Topher. That would be particularly cruel.
And we have the Opal Cheerio. So the Opal Cheerio, the best armor absorb-wise that these white mages are going to be able to wear. Also the best armor absorb-wise the black belt will be able to wear. But the black belt has a unique mechanic to it in that it gets absorbed equal to its level, assuming it is not wearing armor. So the Opal bracelet provides 34 absorb. So as soon as the black belt is higher than 34, if you're going to wear a pro ring, toss on another couple. Basically, you're not going to need to wear armor for that black belt. You can put that Opal bracelet on someone else once the black belt is level 40 or so.
All right, Alright, so Cheezinator is about to enter into the Sea Shrine right around the same time that Thunderclaude is about to take on Lich.
And cracked lobsters could be a problem here for Cheezinator in terms of his white mages surviving, but his black belt should have no problem. But going through here is going to be very slow without AoE clearing, as we do still have unrunnable Arzaheg Wizaheg. So yes, that encounter that tormented your childhood, there you go. There's back, and they may be back with a vengeance if his white mages get cracked out.
Meanwhile, blink and you miss Lich as Thunderclaude takes him out with relative ease. And Thunderclaude's going to take down, or going to the Dwarf Cave to see what that TNT provides. And it is Fetch City, it looks like, because it provides a crystal.
So at this point, Cheezinator is getting a very nice kind of lead here in many ways, as Thunderclaude, every check that he makes is just costing him time. Cheezinator does not need to find a ribbon, does not need to find the power bonk, while Thunderclaude is going to be going all over the world to try and get stuff that he considers he needs for Topher. And yeah, Cheezinator continued to show his intent, not checking any chests other than the 3 greed chests for a ribbon or a defense sword on the Sharknado floor.
Oh no, and that's the worst thing that Thunderclaude could have found on his end, as the crystal turns into the Thor hammer.
Yeah, so that means that Bicky will have the power gauntlet, so Thunderclaude getting that as the last location. And just showing his displeasure, trying to take out the mountain.
Well, sadly, the airship is not that durable.
And here we go, Cheezinator going to take on Kraken, the One Punch Man versus the One Punch Octopus, but in this case, One Punch Man is a lot stronger. This fight shouldn't take long. Here we go. Fades coming out, more fades coming out. That zzz being brought up as a meat shield may take a punch for the team, but not before Kraken goes down. Oh, still lives through one punch. And a fade. Third fade goes out, still not enough. Kraken comes out with his Vanilla Ink spell, doing absolutely nothing. Hope you brought Lamp. For the memes, not for the usefulness. But there we go. Kraken gets taken out. 2-Punch Man does the job.
And Thunderclaude finds heal 3 in Lefane Provoca, so that was basically the only good healing spell that we had left, and it turned out to be in level 2, so it'll be, of course, easily available for non-promoted white mages.
Yeah, so for Thunderclaude right now, though, 2 critical two critical things missing, and of course there's the ribbons, but we're also missing any sort of Invis 2 cast, so we don't have Invis 2 on our white mages, and we also don't have a defense or, the white shirt to cast Ruse or Invis. So, this could be a little bit sketchy. It's not really a type of seed, unfortunately for him, where going in with this kind of not so strong black belt is going to work out as well as it might have if he had found a couple of those items earlier. And considering how many chests that he's checked, that's just kind of unlucky at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's given how much of the game that, how many chests we've seen, it's pretty amazing that we haven't really seen ribbons yet. I'm not sure how that's happened, honestly.
Yeah, so it looks like the strategy for Thunderclaude at this point is going to be the quote-unquote white samurai, bringing the power bonk on the Mossas-wielding white mage. And the reason for that is because they do have Ruse at level 5, and that Ruse is going to make it a lot safer for the white mage to be swinging it, rather than the black belt. And the black belt's not really going to be doing that much more damage other than his additional strength gain.
Right, yeah. Admittedly, I've not done a lot of white samuraiing, but I also generally haven't used the white mage too terribly much in my own seeds. But it's a pretty smart play, because once that black belt gets up high enough, he doesn't really need a lot of help to do damage. But the white mages with the mass immune, the more help you get, the better.
And Cheezinator just absolutely flying in Earth, about to have 4 orbs lit once he takes out Lich in just 2 floors. So Cheezinator jumping into a big lead here, just because of Thunderclaude's inability to find some gear. And that's really just making, unfortunately for him, Cheezinator's strategy was not gear dependent. When you have it was grind tile dependent, but he found one. While Thundercloude's strategy has been gear dependent. He needs the gear to beat Topher, and he just has not found it. So he's even checking mermaids, which is going to be completely optional for Cheezinator. And this is just, every chest he opens is just Cheezinator getting more and more of a lead with honestly a better position in terms of his Topher dive. So yeah, things not looking good for Thunderclaude here, but it's just a little bit unfortunate that he just has not found anything on his chest checks.
Yeah, that really just boils down to some insanely bad luck in that vein. But yeah, like you mentioned, Cheese is busy. Well, he's, like you said, he's about to light that 4th orb. He'll have no trouble doing it, really. And there's your ribbon.
And your defense sword. So there is your Topher safety that Thunderclaude has so desperately been looking for, but at what cost? Because he is going in, even with the gear, he is still arguably worse prepared than Cheezinator, and is going to be entering after. So this is going to take a little bit of bad luck on Cheezinator's part for Thunderclaude to catch up here.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Lich serves as nothing more than a speed bump for Cheezinator, and he has that 4th orb lit and is ready to head into Temple of Fiends Revisited.
So this is still easily within a Topher wipe, because assuming Thunderclaude doesn't suddenly decide to go grind, which I think at this point would be absolutely insane, Thunderclaude just has to go through C and is going to also be in go mode. Or sorry, in with 4 orbs lit and entering Topher. So, if Cheezinator takes a wipe to Kraken or Tia, Thundercloude's going to be right there to have a shot at it as well.
Yeah, this is not done yet. I mean, we're talking about Thunderclaude losing a lot of time on those boxes. The better commentators in this randomizer have called Topher the Great Equalizer many times, and it definitely can be, depending on what sort of spells and abilities and how beefy the monsters are. It can change some fortunes. So even though we talk about Cheezinator having a lead, of course, him going into Topher first, this is definitely not over yet.
Yeah, and Thunderclaude continued to open chest. That chest was quite a few steps out of the way, so could still be looking for more ribbons, because I can't think about anything else. So basically at this point, Thunderclaude has to hope that all 3 of Cheezinator's white mages get cracked down by some lobsters, or, nuked out, as their HP is still a little bit low. And then his black belt, gets beaten down by a high HP fiend with high absorb or something along those lines, because that's what it's going to take for Thunderclaude to catch up. Is the ribbon really only helping against the insta-death spells over what Cheezinator has, and does not have nearly the same damage potential as that level 42 plus black belt.
Right. So Cheezinator making his dive further into the reaches of the Temple of Fiends Revisited. And yeah, Thunderclaude, as Chad is mentioning, Thunderclaude does seem to be looking for more ribbons, because going to out-of-the-way chests, of course those 2 aren't out of the way, but the fact that he's still checking a lot of chests does signify that he's still not terribly comfortable with what he has. And unfortunately, we can see both sides as commentators. We can tell him, well, that's unfortunately not going to work out as well as he would have hoped.
Yeah, and for those of you who are familiar with, Final Fantasy, like, why don't you buy Pro Rings to protect against crack? Unfortunately, Pro Ring causes the death ailment, but it is not death element. It's actually earth element. So Pro Rings only protect against the death element. It does not protect against getting deathed in general. So a little bit unfortunate there for both Cheezinator and Thunderclaude, as that ribbon is going to be their sole source of protection.
Cheezinator walking up to Lich 2, punching him in the face, throwing a fade in his face, and then promptly telling him sayonara, as it was little more than speed bump Mark 2.
So I think the big challenge for Cheezinator here is actually not going to be the Fiends. It's going to be those cracked lobsters. So when we get to the seafloor, which is coming up after carry 2, that's when you're really going to have to hold your breath. The other thing that could be scary is a bunch of maximal roll nukes, but it's going to take multiple things to go wrong for Cheezinator to have some trouble here. He needs to have his white mages all get wiped, and then his black mage have something that it can't solo down.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on Thunderclaude's side, he is taking on Kraken, and unfortunately the black belt went down, so the punch power is currently punching the pavement, which doesn't do them a whole lot of good.
Fades will get the job done against this Kraken, though, getting some nice rolls here. Fades do less damage than Nuke, so Nuke does 200 to 400, while Fade, I believe max rolls around 360 or 380, so just a slightly lower range.
And Fade also, I believe, has a lower floor as well.
Mm-hmm. And Ragnarok giving me in chat 320. Oh, he's giving me the big question mark too, though. So, but yeah,
I think it is 320.
Yeah, I think that sounds right too. And its big benefit is it's non-elemental.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, Greatly Puff. When I meant 200 to 400, that's unresisted. So 100 to 400 with the resisted value.
Right, so Cheezinator is now on the seafloor of Temple of Fiends Revisited, and it looks like he's avoiding those crack lobsters so far, as Thunderclaude enters into Temple of Fiends Revisited at just under the 144 mark.
And here we go. Cheezinator are about to take on the big octopus himself, Kraken 2, often known as the first major gatekeeper in a run. Speed and power strats all the ways. Here we go. First punch goes out. 6 hits, 668. Quad X not going to do much. Now that is Death Element, so thank you, Pro Rings. And with that, Kraken 2 has no health. And he gets... Hold your breath. Hold your breath. I almost calm cursed that so badly.
Oh. Yep, Krat took down two of those white mages, and... I was going to say, we do get a fade going off, and the lobsters are down, so at least you've got one white mage left.
All it takes is one. Oh, man. That white mage survived 2 cracks. Whew. Wow, that was very spicy. That was, potentially phase 1 of the how Cheezinator wipes in Topher, and he gets through okay. Now it's looking pretty safe, but we'll have to see if he has any issues remaining. But I think that was probably his major gatekeeper there, was actually that crack lobster fight.
Yeah. And boy, was, like you mentioned, touch and go as Tia gets touched and gone.
Nice. So as Thunderclaude in Topher, a few floors away from the Lich floor, Cheezinator about to take on the big boss himself in Chaos. Surprise! It was Garland all along. Spoilers. And here we go. Coming out with fades.
Yep.
Oh, go ahead. Take it, Karen.
We have fade strats going out. Of course, the black belt is going to punch aplenty. And nuclear, hello. Takes down one of the white mages, but the other 2 stay up, at least for now. Excuse me. And, a rather paper chaos, as we have GG's. Chaos goes down after that second black belt punch. And so Cheezinator finishes first with an official SRL time of 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 16 seconds. GG Cheezinator.
Yeah, congratulations on his 3rd place finish, and he will be interviewing. So we will be seeing Cheezinator in the booth shortly after he gets marked as the winner here. He'll get the invite in. And he is joining us in chat here as well, so get your GGs out. Cheezinator comes 3rd in this tough as nails competition, going out to last year's champion in Crab Cakes. So GG Cheese. And looks like he's going to be joining us here in just 1 second. And we are joined in the booth by Cheezinator. GG Cheese.
Hey, thanks so much. That was a fun one, and I tried to have fun with it. Had some adversity along the way, but honestly, when you start with 3 Fade casters, it's really hard to have a hard time. I was so tempted to just say reroll in the IRC chat after I looked in the first magic shop, because I know this isn't what like Crab Cakes and Spellzap wanted to see, right? When you have 3 white mages in the party, you wanna make them struggle a bit, but we got it. So just try to use that offense to my advantage and jump start it. Ball rolling once I was headed through Volcano after that rock gold tile.
Yeah, for sure. So just quickly, we have Thunderclaude checking the carry 2 chest, pulling out that second ribbon at long last. Yeah, so definitely got... I was going to say, for the first seed that I rolled for the spring tournament, definitely provided some pretty good magic, as you mentioned. And there was actually calls in chat for exactly what you were talking about. It's like, level 1 Fade, reroll, kind of jokingly, and then it happened. But you two both put on a really good show. So do you want to talk, maybe briefly about our robot chicken friend?
Yeah, so the first one that I came across, I wasn't heavily invested in fighting, but I wanted to see what kind of damage my black belt would do to it with just a punch, because I was already over level 42. So I punch, run, run. The runs don't succeed. The punch does respectable damage. I do it again, but then he zaps, or something like it, zaps one of my mages. Anyway, so I get down to just the black belt, and I have to finish the fight. I get a million experience on him. I'm like, well, whatever. This is fine. It's easy enough to finish Sky with a level 46 black belt. I heal up and move on. And I got another one. And I stopped and thought about it a little bit, because you're about 60%, maybe 61% to run at that point. And I knew run failures would be bad because Warmech was punching quite hard, but I also knew that if I tried to take the fight, it would be, probably 4+ rounds, because Warmech had pretty high absorb. And it didn't feel like there was a super winning line there between running and punching solo. I didn't have Power Gauntlet or anything. I'm loving these memes, by the way, from Thunder.
Yeah.
And yeah, so whatever. I die there because my black belt can't outpunch Warmech. Come in the second time, and the only reason I took the robot chicken the second time was I wanted revenge. Yeah, I just really wanted revenge. That first dive felt like it set me back. I don't know where I was with respect to Thunder at the time, but because of that wipe and also not finding anything in Sky, that's actually what led me to Marsh.
Okay, yeah, so that is kind of the other critical decision that was made. So you decided to kind of go... Most of the decisions were pretty neck and neck. Major strategic differences, as you're kind of seeing here, as we see a much less powerful black belt on Thunderclaude's side, was you decided to grind early on that Sandworm tile versus Thunderclaude not. But the other potential difference was if you went to Earth before Marsh. So you kind of alluded to it, but what was kind of your thought pattern going in there? Is interestingly enough, Thunderclaude actually also made the same decision.
Okay. So I was coming back from Sky with no white mages up. The plan was stop at the town by Earth Cave and revive my characters and then do Earth. And then I got close to it and I was like, oh, this is Vanilla Melmond, right? So I knew that I was going back somewhere else to revive my characters. And from that point, I'm in the Inner Sea already, and I'm like, I don't want to full clear another dungeon after how bad Sky was. I know I lost at least like 4 minutes on that wipe. I'm just going to do Marsh. It's right here, and I have Exit, and Earth 2 through 4 versus all of Marsh is really close. It's not quite a coin flip, but it's close. And you get all of the chests in Marsh sooner than you get all of the chests in Earth 2 to 4. So I went Marsh, and as soon as I grabbed the floater, even though there was one more loose in the game, I knew there were 3 key items immediately behind floaters, so I just exited out.
Yeah, and that was definitely, it turned out to be the right decision and made mathematical sense as well. So yeah, that definitely turned out. So I guess we can thank Melmond for the first time ever for something, which is that by not having somewhere to revive, you went to Marsh first and found a key locked floater, which chat was asking for from the beginning.
Wow. Oh man, is he going to check the Maza chest here? This is going to be awesome.
Oh, come on, Thunder. We believe. He will. You know he will.
Yep. Looks like he's going for it.
He's already been on the full clear meme route of Topher, so I love this.
So for those of you who maybe have only watched the tournament and have never played the vanilla game, this is the longest check. Oh man, it's the longest check. But in the vanilla game, it has the Masa, which you can of course use to fight only Tia 2 and and Chaos, unless you decide to exit out. In this case, it has come on, Ribbon. Wait.
He didn't check it.
It didn't check.
So would we call that a salty meme or just a sardonic one?
Oh man, that is like some.
I just caught up since I'm of course a little behind your video feed. That's amazing.
Oh, he did go back to check it.
It's a salty cabin. Oh man, that would have been a way better Inception moment of just like you'll never know if that was our third ribbon or not. Wow.
The third ribbon's probably in C, right?
He checked all of C.
Oh.
So
he did find one of the ribbons there in the mermaid floor. In fact, that's where he found that first one.
So I think it was in the rest of Marsh, which neither of you checked.
Oh, that's funny. To be that close potentially to a ribbon and miss it is whoops.
Yeah. So Thunder just having a good time. He's had a very long, very hard fought tournament, and deserves his victory lap. As do you, Cheese, with your actual victory in your last game here, coming in third place. We'll let Thunderclaude finish the seat off. As maybe we'll ask you another quick question though, which is that so there was a lot of discussion in both chat and the comms booth about deciding to do your grind early versus your grind late. You kind of showed that you were basically had a plan. You were going to go to a 2-person party primarily, and then you were going to grind up that black belt and go with that. But what made you decide to do it early, although you did find a great grind tile early, rather than wait a little bit and come back once you've maybe cleared out a little bit more and gotten a few more key items?
I think the key item, when it's only 5% per, the key item percentages are a little overrated. I know that the Gregory Puff School of Black Belt certainly advocates grind as early as possible, and I'm in that same school as well because you reap the rewards over the course of the seed in terms of initiative, run chance, and morale. And survivability as well, MDF and stuff, not dying to random insta-kills. But I'll wait for more questions until after you call the last couple fights here for Thunder.
Yeah, sounds good. Go ahead, Krant, take this Tia fight here.
All right, so we've seen Thunderclaude going for a lot of punch physical strength with the Power Gauntlet and swinging the Mass Immune with that White Mage. The last White Mage, unfortunately, went down, I believe, to a Bane, so 3 party members will survive as Tia gets punched in the face and is now gone for both runners as Thunderclaude makes his way, hopefully past the worms and into the Chaos floor.
Yeah, Thunderclaude employing those white samurai strats with that Masa, with that power bonk, with that ribbon. That white mage being able to cast Cure for a big boon, and I will not spoil this for Cheese, but you can kind of guess what Thunderclaude is doing here on the Chaos floor. Oh yeah, this is the largest of all victory laps. Giving us the big one. Does he give us a small one as well? Oh! Goes back for the victory lap around the Tia room as well.
Yeah, it looks like Thunderclaude's running a full marathon here.
Oh, is he going to take the Tia fight again? Showing off some heal pot strats. How fast he can go.
Sure is.
This is a really good grind if you're a beginner runner. Like, it's very important to not to be too afraid of Chaos. So Chaos can punch hard. If you need some levels right at the end, go back, take Tia again. If he's squishy, can be really, really good way to get some more levels. So definitely would recommend. There's even a free tile there that you can take. If you walk to the right, because it's along the bottom, you're not going to get another encounter on the off step. Just keep taking this Tia fight. Easy grind, easy levels, and then you can come back and take down Chaos.
Interesting. I think this is the first tournament seed in which I've actually seen certainly a Tia grind.
Please never ever do that if you're a beginner runner. I was being completely sarcastic. For anyone who is trying to actually start doing this, never ever go back. Ever, unless it's, your last race after 3 rounds. After 6 rounds of Swiss, a last chance qualifier, and 3 grueling bracket rounds.
Thunderclaude taking the mini victory lap in. Just leaving Chaos hanging here. My goodness.
We were assured before the seed started that there is Nothing but more fantastic content going on Speed Gaming 1, so we do get to enjoy this fantastic just endgame victory laps here. Oh man, Thunder giving us one for the ages. Already gave us the hour 30-minute Garland kill. Now giving us the 5 victory laps, multiple Tia grinds, all the good stuff. So thank you, Thunderclaude, for gracing us with this.
Yes, this has definitely provided some nice good feelings leaving a seed that, hey, he may not come out on top in the seed itself, in the combat, but he is the winner in our hearts, I think.
Here comes the Chaos fight, going with the defensive and power bonk strat. So defense on that black belt to make to get someone who can take some punches, while the white samurai there to do most of the damage. Going to be coming out with Fade, as well as some more Fade. Nuclear coming up from Chaos, but he does have those heal 3s to heal up with, while his white samurai is about to start doing some serious damage to this Chaos. Oh goodness, and Slow 2 hits the white samurai. Cure 4 does not heal that, unfortunately, as it is a different, it's not a status. Three hits, 3 damage. Lit 2 coming out, not doing too much here. But you know what, Heal 3 is going to come out, and Heal 3 showing its worth against those kind of lower damage AoE spells. Defense does not need to come out anymore, so he's pretty much at max evade, but Fades will do the trick, as we know this Chaos is not super high HP, as Cheezinator was able to take it down fairly easily here. It's a good thing he did that Tia grind to make sure that, he had that little bit of extra HP to make sure he could survive this. Expect some more Heal 3s come out. There it goes, and then Fade going off for a decent amount of chip damage. Showing off his menuing speed here. This is a really good way to practice your menuing speed, just going around and around to make sure that you can get to every slot as quickly as possible. Three hits, 7 damage. So not doing much here, but these Fades will get the job done eventually, between the healing that's keeping his party alive, and hopefully Chaos does not show us something truly nasty, as Cheezinator didn't really show us his entire spell and script list. Fades coming out, and these Fades should be pretty close to doing this here. 143 coming out, pretty decent roll there. 131, and another one for 137. So for resisted Fade rolls, not too bad. I'm going to cast some more Ruse, and another Cure 3 on his White Samurai. That White Samurai is going to be able to do some damage here. Rub comes out, not going to do much as it hits the one person with a ribbon. Defense are continuing to come out, so Thunderclaude, just playing it pretty safe, making sure he enjoys his time against this final Chaos. Bane strats come out, come on. That, of course, only 3 and 256, and the last Fade gets unresisted, 256 damage, and with that, and a little bit of Cursor strats, Thunderclaude has finished this race with an official SRL time of 2 hours and 29 minutes. So GG to Thunderclaude on finishing your last seed of this spring tournament. And Thunderclaude is also joining us for an interview, so we will be joined in the booth here shortly by Thunderclaude. And here we are. GG, Thunder.
Thanks.
GG, and thanks for running this one with me.
Sure. Yeah, it was interesting. It was easy mode with the Fade level 1. There wasn't going to be much in your path unless you came across a Warmac that would zap your party, or a Lobster Pack that would crack your party. Otherwise, you didn't really have problems.
Yeah, I also wiped to Warmech. Crack thankfully missed. I think the lobster cracks came out like 2 or 3 times on my bottom white mage. I didn't have any ribbons, but I just got lucky to resist it a few times and still had life. But I think solo black belt probably still gets through that Tiamat and Chaos.
My plan all along was just to rely on Fades, and if I came across the Massa, I would use that as backup damage, but I didn't plan on using my black belt to full power. It was just kind of a Fade stack, or a Ruse stack at the end game for me, but he ended up getting high enough because 230 boxes later you get a ribbon, so that feels pretty bad.
Yeah, I didn't find any of them. I heard there was one in C, and then I saw the one in the sweet carry chest, but neither of us got number 3.
No, I'm assuming number 3 was... I didn't check all of Sharknado's floor. I'm assuming it was probably there because that was the only boxes I didn't open other than the 2 carry floor boxes. And I guess the 3, I think there were 3 boxes in Marsh I didn't open after I found the floater.
Yeah, those were the only other ones we were thinking of, were just potentially if you all left a few just in Marsh there. Crabcake saying that there was definitely going to be another one in Carry 2, but that may not have been the case. So, maybe Thunder, if you want to kind of give any thoughts on the seed other than what you've already said, and then we'll get kind of into just, tournament wrap up. So is there anything else that you want to add on that seed, Thunder? Is basically to give you a kind of a rough summary of what happened. You were kind of in the lead because Cheezinator did decide to go for that, ground black belt, and then just ultimately fell behind because the seed kind of just trolled you with opening so many boxes and just not able to find that ribbon. So that's kind of how the seed went. That's kind of the tail of the seed. But is there anything that you want to add in terms of your decision making or anything about this?
Not exactly. I feel like if I would run the seed again, I'd pretty much run it the same. I feel like checking Sky before Earth was a little more chest density, so that's kind of what I was going for. Plus, the walking grind is good until you wipe the Warmech. Usually you pull at least a couple things good out, but in this case you didn't, so it kind of didn't pay off at all. Yeah. But reclimbing after wiping, at least the reclimb isn't a whole lot of time sink. It's like a 3-minute time sink, maybe a little bit more. So that, doing that before Earth, and then I kind of chose to do Marsh before Earth just because of that wipe. I was like, well, I don't really feel good about my position right now with how many boxes I just opened, didn't get anything out of it. Plus, it wasn't really a good proximity check. So I'm pretty sure the loose being somewhere else necessary probably was found earlier than I would find it. So I decided to gamble with the Marsh a little bit, and then finding the floater kind of made me feel like I might have had a better chance. But yeah, I mean, barring to wipe the Warmech, maybe it would have been a lot closer of a race. And the Lobster Pack made me go back and look for ribbons. I mean, I probably could have been fine going in again with a different encounter table and not worrying about a ribbon, but, it is what it is.
Yeah, it would have been a very close race, I think, if you had gone in without a ribbon. I think you would have been entering in slightly faster, but, that would have been a much riskier situation. But
when I wiped out Lobster Pack, I think it cost me about 10 minutes of opening boxes looking for another ribbon before going back into Sea Shrine, so it definitely put me behind.
Yeah. But at the same time, it's hard to say, and no one in chat or really the booth was like, oh, this is the wrong decision for what you were doing and where you were, because you were committed to that non-black belt grind. There were some people who were wondering, could start grinding up a black belt to get the virtual ribbon, but it just ended up not paying off for you. But you could have had a single ribbon in your first checks in Cartier or something like that, and it could have been a very different seed. So GG's though, Thunder, way to stick it out till the end. And kind of with that, Karant, do you have any questions before we kind of get into this kind of final tournament thoughts?
No, not particularly. I just want to say GG to you both. It was a very good run. I appreciated it from both of you guys. I know I think both of us mentioned at the outset, you guys are both fantastic runners, especially to have made it this far in a 70-plus person field. So both of you definitely be proud of what you guys have achieved in this tournament, whether it's 3rd place or 4th. You've both done excellently, and I wish you guys the best of luck in any future tournament endeavors that we will see each other in.
So let's pass it over to our 4th place runner in this huge tournament. As we said, Thunder, do you want to kind of give us your final thoughts kind of on this tournament, if there's anything you want to pass on?
Yeah, it was interesting. I liked the competitive aspect of it, but it just kind of felt very long, so I'm very relieved that it's finally done. As you can tell, I kind of, drafting white mages every match that I got, and basically me saying I'm over this tournament. I just kind of want to be done. But it was, at least the flag set was kind of relaxing. It wasn't too hard to think your brain around and, tracking entrances and stuff. So it was fun in that respect. That was a little bit relaxing, and hopefully next tournament won't drag on quite as long, and I'll have more wind in my sails.
Yeah, I mean, even for saying that, and we get that it's a long tournament, but you still put on a heck of a show through many, many rounds, and even with these harder party comps, still lots to learn from. So thanks a lot for taking part, Thunder, and for giving us these great shows. Pass it over to Cheese.
Sure.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah, before Before that, Crabcakes had asked about the draft in chat. I think we just heard Thunder's philosophy of just draft white mages because he's over it. But I came in wanting to have fun specifically. I wanted to have a goofy party that still had some way to win the game, so it wouldn't just be like a drag for the restream. So I opened with White Mage to see if Thunder would match, and instead of turning it into like a spell zap seed, I gave us the black belt, so there was something to grind. And of course I love black belt, and this is my last chance to play a black belt in the tournament, so of course I was going to take it. But Thunder, did you have any else to your approach there?
No, I mean, at least I feel confident in playing a white mage to its fullest, so I mean, at least when I play a white mage, I feel like I'm not putting myself in a handicap because, I know what I can rely on as far as bare minimums, and getting through a seed, not just relying on Fade, but the other utilities that a white mage can provide. So, that's kind of my philosophy is I don't feel like white mage gets enough love and a lot of use, and I think there's a lot of room to optimize playing a white mage that people haven't taken advantage of yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, before the seed, I went kind of through in my head, like, what are the spells I normally ignore, just don't even recognize in the shop that I'm actually going to need to buy with this party if there's not good magic? So I was like, Fear, I need to get Fear. I need to get Mute. I probably need to get Exfer. Like, these are all sort of fringe spells that I would never buy in a regular seed, but when all you have are white mages, you have to start seriously thinking about. And yeah, I guess this was discussed before you got in the booth with us, but we had really similar end to late games or something like that. The point from Sky onwards, we both wiped in Sky to Warmech, and then we both went to Marsh because we wiped in Sky to Warmech. However, it sounds like you took a walking grind and thus lost more from your wipe, whereas I only lost a couple levels that I had to take on like unrunnable metal slimes.
Oh my gosh, there's so many unrunnable metal slimes.
And but yeah, so I guess now on to the tournament stuff. I already gave Duchess a long interview at the end of the race with CC. I didn't actually expect to run this. I was kind of mulling it around in my head, like, wouldn't it be fun to maybe do a third place? This wasn't in the tournament rules beforehand, for anyone who's wondering. But Gregley Puff was kind enough to approach both of us and get us together for one more show. And I'm glad the crew was able to squeeze this in before the finals. But I had a lot of fun this tournament. I exceeded my expectations. I felt like I improved at the game. I got to flex so many different strategies. I think my fighter game especially improved this tournament. I already felt like I loved Black Belt and played it pretty well, but my fighter game improved a lot, and I got to put that to use in a couple of the bracket runs. I'll have plenty to say in our Discord when it comes time to make adjustments in the post-mortem for what we would like to see differently next year, and I'm going to try to get on next year's flag design committee as well. Probably skip co-op, but I'm going to help out, help duckling training in the summer here as they get ready for their duckling derby.
Okay, well, awesome. Thank you very much, Cheezinator. And yeah, we're looking forward to, all us ducks are looking forward to some great training from the third place finisher in our large tournament. And kind of with that, let's wrap things up here. So thank you everyone for hanging out with us on Speed Gaming 3. There's lots of exciting Final Fantasy Randomizer action going on this week as we have our finals between Crabcakes and Spellzap going on Friday, Saturday, and possibly Sunday. If we need Game 3 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on RPG Limit Break. But stay tuned on the Speed Gaming channels as we have the No Kid Hungry Marathon going on right now on Speed Gaming 1, and our very own Burt Reynolds and Groggy Dog will be putting on a race at 12:05 Eastern Standard Time on Speed Gaming 1 for the No Kid Hungry Marathon. So come check that out. That's going to be extremely exciting, and we're really happy that our community is able to put something into an event with such a good cause. So for anyone out there who's looking to get started on that, come join our Discord. We have tons of great things going on. You can get involved in the next tournament, so you can race on something like this on Speed Gaming. You can get involved in our Duckling Derby. You can get involved in Iron Gall. There's something for everyone. Thank you very, very much to our runners for coming on tonight and giving us this great show for third place. Thank you to my co-coms, Karan, tonight for sticking with me in the booth. And for our tracker tonight, Reese, who did a great job reminding us of everything as well as making sure that you, the viewers, are always up to date. From everyone here in the Final Fantasy Randomizer community, thank you very much for sticking with us. And I hope you have a fantastic night. Come check us out. Good night, everyone.